Look, a beautiful boy playing the guitar. Wait a minute, is he really a boy? Why does the guitar have this crooked handle? Could it be a broken guitar maybe? The boy looks so serene and calm, I guess he wouldn't be so calm if his instrument was defective, would he? I guess it's not a guitar after all. So what is this instrument? What about these other instruments on the table? Is this guy a multi-instrumentalist and can play all of them? But this boy, he looks very familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere before. To begin with, I think it's important to tell you that to find out more about the Lute Player, you need to be aware that there are 3 versions of it. Yes, the Italian Baroque master Caravaggio painted the same picture 3 times. My god. Anyway, although all 3 paintings carry the same theme, each one has its own peculiarities. Are you ready to discover the 3 facets of the same Lute Player? I'll start by showing you the first version of the Lute Player, part of Wildenstein's collection. Looking at this composition, there's a young musician behind a desk, probably practicing his musical craft. Most of the scene is darkened in typical Caravaggio style. The table in front of the young man is beautifully covered with a red patterned tablecloth, which covers most of the surface. On the table, there are 3 instruments. There's a flute, a small violin, and on the left, an instrument that's hard to identify. What do you think it is? Maybe some different kind of keyboard? You can't tell for sure what it is. Accompanying the instruments on the table are 2 books, and one of them shows the musical scores that the young boy is using to play his lute. What kind of music is this? This painting has a very familiar feel, showing details that are evident in other earlier paintings by Caravaggio. One detail in particular that I can mention would be the positioning of the table in front of the boy. The artist had already used this positioning in another painting, to be more specific, in Bacchus, one of his most famous, from 1595. This version of the Lute Player that I'm showing here is from 1596, from the Wildenstein collection. But it has 2 other versions. The second version was painted in the same year and has a slightly different name, Apollo the Lute Player. This version is currently located in the former Badminton house in Gloucestershire. The truth is that between these 2 versions, it's not known which one Caravaggio painted first. What can be deduced is that the Wildenstein version has a shorter composition, so it may have been finished faster. So, because it is simpler, perhaps the Badminton version is an attempt at refinement by the artist? This possibility of refinement comes from the speculation that Caravaggio may have called on assistants to help with the second painting, the Badminton version, where they would have used the original work to guide the use of technique. It's a good theory. The third version also has the same name as the first and is now in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. Many consider this to be the most famous version of the Lute Player. Despite having the same main theme, the 3 paintings have clearly different details. Apollo the Lute Player is the most different version, probably because it goes further and also deals with a mythological theme, showing Apollo, the Greek god of the sun and music. Now, why did Caravaggio make 3 versions of the same painting? Could it be that he was so fond of the lute? Or did he hate the earlier versions and only stopped when he reached the version he wanted? I don't know. No one knows, actually. There's no answer to this, but it is possible to theorize. What's your theory? The main element that the 3 versions have in common would be the central figure, which is also the main theme, the Lute Player. In all 3 paintings, he is a boy with brown hair and a gentle face playing the lute. I wonder what kind of music he's playing. Some historians claim that it is a madrigal about love. That's so romantic. But the 3 paintings also have their differences, of course. In the Badminton house and Hermitage versions, the table is bare, showing a marble surface, with fruit and flowers on one side and a violin on the other. The flowers and fruit of Badminton and Hermitage seem to suggest that love, like all things that exist in the world, is mortal and fleeting. In the Wildenstein version, the message of love is not so clear, bordering between subjective and non-existent. In the other 2 versions, you can read texts that seem to be for someone special and that use romantic language. Certainly in these 2 versions, there's a special feeling being shown to someone. Here, in the Wildenstein version, on the other hand, it doesn't have the still life represented in the same way. Here, the table is covered with a beautiful tablecloth, and the flowers and fruit of the other versions are replaced by another instrument, a small keyboard. Simple as that. Anyway, it is visible that in all versions, the musical instruments are important and are also highlighted. Caravaggio was very fond of music, and many of his paintings had this as the main theme. But of course, I can't take away some of the young boy's protagonism. By the way, who could this boy be? Did he really exist? Is he really a boy? Well, he can't be identified as Mario Minetti, a close friend of Caravaggio. He even seems to be the same model as in other paintings by the artist, such as Card Sharps and the 2 versions of Fortune Teller. In all 3 versions of the painting, you notice that the boy presents himself with the same appearance. His hair is brown and thick, his facial features are soft, his mouth is half open in a sort of indication of annoyance. It may even denote a certain grumpiness. But his expression is thoughtful, vacant-eyed under wide, well-drawn eyebrows. It is a mixed look that makes the observer wonder whether the boy is happy or not, isn't he? In the Wildenstein version, the boy's white shirt is open at the front, as if the artist is showing an attempt to paint a nude. Interestingly, the boy has the same dimensions in all 3 paintings, which suggests that Caravaggio drew only one on oil paper, and only one of the paintings was completed from a new study of a model. The ribbon of cloth in the boy's hair emphasizes his almost androgynous features. The same applies to the wide yoke he wears that split his shirt under his chest, like a woman's dress. He is a boy, but the artist gives him some feminine details, teasing the masculine standards of that time. It is as if Caravaggio really wanted to cause controversial confusion, even if in a subtle way. But it is not only Caravaggio's provocative style that makes him a master. His painting techniques are also admirable, and with the Lute Player, it is easy to see this. Notice the light falling from a high point above on the left side, creating a narrow triangle of luminosity in the upper right corner. This makes the boy illuminated and puts him prominently against the gloomy background in a bright way. This effect gives depth to the painting in a way that is unnatural and rarely executed or thought of by any other painter of that century or earlier. Oh, it can be said that Caravaggio also knew how to highlight himself by painting uniquely. Oh, by the way, if you're curious to know more works by Caravaggio or paintings that have different versions, leave your likes and comments under this video. Now, let's continue. It is also important to mention, still talking about technique, that in the curved end of the lute, Caravaggio demonstrates some of his virtuous style in dealing with perspective. Now, take the time to look at the objects on the table more closely. The music book is open and lying on the table, showing a piece of the inscription Bassus in Gothic letters, while the violin serves to hold the book open. In the other 2 versions of Hermitage and Badminton, the inscription appears more clearly and fully. But in all 3 versions, Caravaggio was careful to paint the sheet music clearly enough for the viewer to read. The composition of the violin on the table is not the same in all 3 paintings. In the St. Petersburg and Badminton versions, the violin bow rests over the strings and the open music book as a prominent object for observing light and shadow. In the Wildenstein version, it is different. The bow is positioned less interestingly under the violin roll and is hardly distinguishable from the details of the tablecloth. Also, in Wildenstein's version, a flute and a triangular keyboard accompany the violin. There, in the left corner, inconspicuously placed, is a birdcage. Perhaps a bit random? Could be. It is even proof that Caravaggio had unusual motives for selecting the elements of his works. Now showing a curious detail of the St. Petersburg version. Here, Caravaggio seems to be playing with still life and the individual figure. On the marble table in this version, you find pieces of fruit, painted extremely colorfully and also brightly. There's also a crystal vase with a bunch of flowers that leaves anyone in awe. Here, Caravaggio uses color totally uninhibited, with a loaded brush, a richness and precision in the brush strokes that you cannot see anywhere else in his work. So, after comparing the 3 versions, which one did you like best? The messier Wildenstein version? The more detailed Hermitage version? Or is the mythological aura of Gloucestershire your favorite? I can see that they all show Caravaggio's talent in an amazing way, without a doubt, and each one has in its details an admirable uniqueness. Honestly, I can't choose. If you are curious to know more about Caravaggio or paintings that have different versions, leave your like here on this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notifications for the next videos. Bye! See you soon!